Oh, the lengths I will go to for my wife. Hello everyone, this is Ghost Queen. This month we do not have any Ko-fi shoutouts. As you may already know if you follow my Instagram, by the way, follow my Instagram for life updates, I broke my finger. What exactly happened is incredibly stupid. I just accidentally slammed the door on my hand and I broke my finger. And I'm unable to go to the hospital to get it properly checked out. I just have broken limbs so often to the point that I know what it feels like now. So yeah, I broke my finger. And I've been complaining about it online for a long time, even though I still continue to draw with my remaining 2 fingers on my dominant hand. But yeah, that's that. And also, if you know, if you follow the ARCANA game on Instagram and pretty much all of their other social media, I think, you will know that there is a bit of a situation right now. To make a very long story moderately long, basically, when they released the secondary routes of Muriel, Portia, and Lucio, they realized that Portia's route was not doing very well, and it is costing more money to make it than it is pulling in, so they can't pay the people who are making the route. So they might have to stop it early. So they started a campaign called #SavePortia so that fans of Portia can show their support and actually get the profits of the route going so that they can continue to make it. And one of the things that they did as part of the campaign is release a recipe for Portia's favorite food. This is the second recipe that the ARCANA has released, and the first time they did it, they released the pumpkin bread, and I made it, and I posted a video about it, and everyone seemed to enjoy that video, so the second they released this recipe, I knew I was going to have to make a video about it. Except for when they released this recipe, my hand was already smashed to pieces. To make matters worse, there's like a frickin' quarantine situation going on. I don't know when y'all are gonna be watching this video, but as of now, April 5th, 2020, yeah, the world is burning down and it is in chaos right now. People are fighting each other in the streets for toilet paper. I heard news of this one innocent guy who was at home where there was a knock on the door and there was this elderly lady outside and she was like, "Oh, Sonny, I'm very far from home and I need to pee." And he's like, "Oh, sure, ma'am, you can go pee." And she just went in, did her business, and like left after a few minutes. And when he went to check, all of his stock toilet paper had been stolen by this sweet old lady. The world is insane. Okay, that was one hell of a tangent there. But anyway, with that said, so many of the ingredients are sold out right now. I believe like the supermarkets are out of eggs, they're out of flour, they're out of bread, which was a necessary ingredient for this recipe. Thankfully, my mom really likes baking, so we had stocked up on flour. So honestly, I was prepared to make this bread. Like the exact bread that the recipe calls for. But then my mom went to another grocery store and she was able to find bread. So at least I don't have to make bread with a broken finger. And any other ingredients I'm not necessarily missing except for butter, but I'll talk about that later. Oh, also we don't have any pears. It's not the season for pears for here, I don't believe. So I'm just going to use some cooking apples. This one's kind of wrinkly, but yeah, hopefully these 2 are going to be enough because that's all I could get. So I wrote down the recipe on a card again. My handwriting isn't as beautiful as the first time because, you know, I'm just going to use my finger as an excuse for literally everything that goes wrong. So the first thing you're going to have to do is preheat the oven and grease a pan. So to get back to my butter situation, I don't have unsalted butter. Now we do have salted butter, but we need that for other stuff, and we don't have a lot of it. But I did go digging in the fridge and I found this like clotted cream, which is basically butter but with a lower fat content. It's way past its expiry date, but it's never been opened before, and I feel like eating it raw would be a bad idea, but I think if I cook it, it'll be fine. So that's what I'm gonna do. Hopefully I don't give the entire house food poisoning. First step is to grease the pan with a tablespoon of the butter. So I'm just going to take a tablespoon of this clotted cream and melt it and then use it to grease my pan. I'm not making this bread today, but I may have to eventually. It sounds really good. Just going to pour the cream into the pan and just kind of shake it around. Might get like a paper towel or something and spread it around a little bit better. Can't do that with the camera though. So I'm going to take the apples and peel them and cut them into pieces. I also decided to wear a glove on this hand because my cast is getting dirty. Okay, so the recipe says to stop at 8, but I don't really like big chunks of fruit in my desserts, so I'm going to cut it a little bit smaller. Okay, so the next step is to take 2 tablespoons of butter and melt it in a frying pan. So, that's 1 tablespoon. This is where I started cooking the apples, and I said I was going to stir them occasionally until they turn brown, but for some reason my computer just refuses to load that footage. Until brown is about 10 minutes, and I'm using my pickles timer for that. Okay, 10 minutes have passed and I've accidentally slightly burned my apples, but I think I'll be fine. To this I'll be adding 2 teaspoons of sugar. Now the recipe calls for granulated sugar. I've mixed 2 parts, 1 part granulated sugar and 1 part light brown sugar because I just prefer the taste of brown sugar with apples. I just think it tastes better, but I feel like if I stray too far from the recipe, it's not going to go very well. Now I'm just going to continue cooking this, I'm going to continue cooking this while stirring gently until the sugar melts and coats the apples. Now once the apples are done, I'm going to remove them from the heat and pour them into the pan and arrange them onto the bottom. That looks pretty good to me. I'm going to set this aside. Now, the recipe calls for 6 slices of challah. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's a Jewish bread. I was planning to make it if I couldn't find any bread in the grocery store, but I was able to. So I'm just going to be using regular white bread because ain't nobody got time for that. So the next part of the recipe, you're supposed to butter each side of the bread. Just one side of each slice. Just like this. The next step is to cut the buttered slices in half. Like so. Next step is to lay down the bread slices, buttered side down, onto the apples. Next Next, I'm going to take a bowl, I'm going to crack in the eggs. We also need 2 cups of milk. I just have this 3rd cup measuring cups here, so. And a 3rd cup of sugar. Again, this is a mixture of brown sugar and granulated sugar. You also need some vanilla extract. The recipe calls for a teaspoon, but Japanese vanilla extract and American vanilla extract is very different. Japanese vanilla extract is incredibly strong. So if you're making this in Japan, I would recommend just a couple of drops like I did. You also need a teaspoon of cinnamon, which I added off camera. The recipe also has an optional 1/4 cup of crystallized ginger. I don't have any of that, but I do like the taste of ginger and anything cinnamon-y. So I'm gonna add a little bit of powdered ginger. I feel like that'll complement the flavor quite a bit. So I don't know if it's visible on camera, but I've added it. So what's next? And we also need a pinch of salt. There we go. I hadn't been preheating my oven until now. Something's wrong with it, and for some reason it pretty much starts baking almost immediately after it's done preheating. So I didn't heat it up until now. Okay, so the recipe requires that you put all the bread in the pan before you put in your egg mixture. I feel like this bread is going to have a hard time soaking up the mixture, so I'm going to do 1 layer and then I'm going to pour in the egg mixture over top. Then I'm going to spoon in some more egg mixture. And now that everything is into place, you're going to have to leave this for about 10 to 15 minutes to let everything soak up. I'm realizing that bread pudding is pretty much just wet French toast in a pan. So I've set pickles for about 15 minutes, and I'll be back when that's done. Pickles has let us know that time is up, and this is what it looks like. Earlier, I could just tip the pan around, and I could see the egg mixture sloshing around in the pan. But I don't see any of that now. So the recipe calls for heating it up for 165 degrees C for about 30 to 35 minutes. Unfortunately, my oven only has temperature increases by 10 degrees at a time, so I had to do 170. So I decided to only bake for about 30 minutes. I didn't mention this earlier, but I accidentally burned my finger on the pan when I was cooking the apples, and I hate this so much. Seriously, why? I have a burn on my other hand. I broke this finger, now I burned my pinky. I hate this so much. Y'all should better appreciate this. Hey, so the thing is baked, and it looks pretty good. I'm just gonna take it out and do the poke test. Essentially, you take whatever you're baking in the oven and then you poke a knife into the center. If it comes out clean, it looks pretty clean to me. It's good to go. So now I'm just going to take the same knife, and I should probably get a oven mitt so I don't burn myself yet again. I'm going to cut out some serving pieces. Pretty plate, so I'm just gonna use a spatula and try to scoop this out in one piece. Hopefully this will not end in disaster. Whoa! Gosh, seriously. Okay, at least it didn't drop anything. I'm gonna stop this camera and start it back up again once I get it on the plate. Okay, so it's not the most beautiful looking thing ever, but it smells wonderful. The recipe calls for some powdered sugar on top, so I'm just gonna get some right now. A tea strainer, and I'm just gonna put like a spoonful of powdered sugar on top, and pudding is so hot. The sugar is pretty much melting on contact, but it looks pretty good. And now we're done. I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!